Despite her traumatic past as a victim of multiple rapes, sexual abuse, and near-death experience as someone she almost married choked her, today's guest has shown that you can be resilient and move on in life and bypass the state of victimhood. On today's Comfort Kill episode, we meet Jenny Ambrose, who is the founder of an award-winning design science and strategy studio. She is part scientist, part artist, and all powerhouse. She is here to share her story and these days how she can help you take your business from mundane to mundane. Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Hi, Jasmine. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you here today. So when we met during our meet and greet, some of the things that you said and that you shared really just I really have it on my mind for a little while. So I am eager to see what you have to say today. I can't wait for everybody to kind of hear where you're coming from and then just where you are now, because it's just a phenomenal transition from past to present, and
Yes.
so excited about who you've become and what you're doing for the community. So let's go ahead and kind of go into the dirty past and just kind of see what that story looks like and go from there.
Yeah, so I was always a creative child, like would wriggle out of my crib at 18 months, put on my Mickey Mouse ears, sit at my Sesame Street table and draw.
Yeah.
Like that's just who I am. So that really saved me through my entire past. I grew up with a narcissistic mother who was very jealous of me, jealous of my personality, jealous of my creativity, jealous of my just jealous.
Yeah,
So it was very aggressive with me verbally.
Oh man.
And so when you start out in a relationship with your mother like that, you attract abusive friends, and you attract abusive teachers, and you attract abusive boyfriends. And so that was so much of my story, was untangling, why do these behaviors remind me so they're so familiar? And it's because I just kept attracting those same types of people in my life. But all the while, creativity, making, artistry, sewing, learning to cook, learning to bake, tap dancing, anything. Even now, in 2021, when quarantine happened in 2020, I turned to hat making, jewelry making. I illustrated something every day for 6 months. It was just, that's how I handle things I don't like in life.
Right.
And it's turned into a very successful business that has bloomed from such intense trauma.
So you're saying so mom was jealous, but who was she jealous, or she was jealous of you, but is it because there were certain family members around you who treated you differently, or like I guess help me understand.
Yeah. So she blames me for my father and her divorce. They got divorced when I was 12. And now being an adult, it's like if a 12-year-old is doing that to your marriage, you don't really, but I wasn't doing anything. My dad and I are still close. It did take some time, but we're back to being close. But yeah, just very jealous. She would leave me home alone at 7. At 16, when I had an emergency appendectomy, I was in the hospital, and she left me to go cook dinner for my brother, who was perfectly capable of cooking dinner for himself, but that's not the way that it was. And just when she left for Florida, she left for Florida from New Jersey. I wasn't invited to go.
And how old were you then?
14, 13.
Young enough, yeah.
And she was taking my brother, and she was like, well, if you want to come, you can.
Oh, wow.
But it's like that's not a true invitation. So I stayed with my dad. And she would call up and say that I was an accident, that I was a mistake. And
Oh
it's
my
like, listen,
goodness.
lady, I didn't
Yeah.
ask to be here. I just
Right.
am here.
Oh.
And I got sent from child abuse services
Uh-huh.
from my dad's care to my mother.
Right.
And I begged child abuse services to send me to foster care instead
Uh-huh.
of my mother
Uh-huh.
because I knew it was not going to be good
Right.
to go back to her care.
Uh-huh.
And I was right. Um, at this point, I was vegan,
Mm-hmm.
15, and she refused to buy me groceries.
Mm.
What she would do is I would write a list and she'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, I looked for that, but I couldn't find it.
Oh.
Sorry."
Yeah.
And I just would have to figure out how to get my own food. So I ended up getting 2 jobs
Yeah.
at 15 to buy groceries and
Right.
visit, you know what, and visit New Jersey,
Yeah.
visit home.
Yeah.
And man, that felt like forever. Those years felt like forever. So when
Oh.
I was finally 18, um, I was still living with her, but I
Mm-hmm.
went to college. I went to community college, and that
Yeah.
for me was such like a freeing
Mm.
experience because I was around people who enjoyed me, who
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the way that I thought, who engaged me in a
Mm-hmm.
positive way,
Yeah.
and that's where I found my love for anthropology and culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this time, I am also making t-shirts, stickers, things for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just like in my room, pure coping mechanism. I'm making things for myself.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend at the time dared me to apply to a local art school,
Mm.
semi-local, 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, I'm not that good. I can't like go
Mm-hmm.
to art school. And I got in.
Yeah.
So in the
Oh.
same week, I get into art school,
Mm-hmm.
which was a dream of mine, but it's like,
Yeah.
who has that job?
Right.
And I get invited to an archaeological dig in Chichen Itza.
Uh-huh.
And so it
Oh.
became like,
Wow.
what path do you choose?
Yeah.
And because I loved art, I mean, I was doing it, I was waking up at like 4 a.m., or not sleeping and just like
Mm-hmm.
making art all the time. And I went to art school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, my
Mm-hmm.
mother called me
Oh no.
every week to beg me to drop out because she was terrified of the student loans. And I'm like, I don't care. I took out the
Yeah.
money. I paid for art school myself.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was not going to let her insecurity on how I was going to pay that back
Yeah.
get in the way of my dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't.
Oh
So
my
I'd be like,
goodness.
I'm doing this, click, shut up, click,
Yeah.
and just had to block that out for
Yeah.
4 years.
Wow. Wow. That's insane, Jenny. So growing up with that relationship, that type of relationship with your mother, I can't even fathom what that's like. My mother and I are so close, and I'm so thankful for that. But
Yeah.
I've heard so many tales similar to this where I'm just like, I can't even imagine. Like, as a mother myself, I couldn't imagine doing that to my child or
You
saying
know,
those things or,
you know those moments where
yeah.
it's like you're walking and someone else
Uh-huh.
is walking and then you
Hmm.
like mimic each other's movements for a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah.
I have a memory of trying to get my mother to hug me. And she moved to the side and I moved to the side and she moved to the side. And I was like, hug me, please. And
Yeah.
she like gave me the most 2%, oh, if I have to hug, and then shoved me aside and moved on.
Oh my gosh.
It took me, I am married now, I have a happy marriage. It took me, oh God, I don't even know how many months before I could comfortably cuddle with my husband.
Mm.
Before I was like, this feels okay. And
Hmm.
it was just like incrementally, I'm like, I gotta go now because I'm not
Yeah.
used to that touch. I'm just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Wow. So that resonates big time. For me, just growing up like in an Asian household where like emotions and touch is not represented very often. We don't hug, we don't say I love you. we know it, but we don't say it, and there's no physical touching at all. Not that there's no because of any like beliefs or cultural anything. Well, it is cultural. It's just there was no physical touching. We just don't hug just to hug. And so I totally understand that. So for me, like I am not a hands-on person. I'm not a physical person. Not that I'll, shy away from it, but I feel the same way. Like I am just like, oh, okay, you want a hug? All right, I'll give you a hug, I guess. Like it just doesn't come naturally for me. Whereas there are some people that I'm just like, you guys are huggy kissy type people, and it's a lot. And so I hear what you're saying, but wow. So I feel like the relationship that you had really, really caused domino effects with relationships that you've had since then with other people.
I thought I was a problem.
Oh, yeah.
My mother was like, no one's going to love you. Because a lot of it's centered around getting my period, which is okay.
Yeah.
So I have PMDD. Mm-hmm. My period sort of shifts who I am for a couple of weeks, and then I even out, and then I'm like, I am myself.
Okay.
And no part of her was like, I should take her to a doctor.
Yeah.
It was, I'm going to watch Maury Povich and see the bad girls on TV and tell me that I'm a demon and I'm going to boot camp. And it's like, I'm okay. So there was so much of that in my life. I really thought that she was correct, that I was actually the problem. And so I just stayed. I was like, you're right, I'm done. Like there was no part of me that was fighting that because I could not win.
Yeah.
Her perspective was the only perspective, and anything I said was completely wrong. Yeah. I know this as narcissism now, but as like a 12 to 16 to 22-year-old girl, you don't know. I have no idea. And there were just so many things that I could never do right with her, ever. It didn't matter. Didn't matter. With men, I was too picky. I was also a whore. Like, she wouldn't let me use her razor when I came home from college because I might have AIDS and who knows what I do. And it's like, I sit in my room and I fucking draw. Like, I don't, like, the amount of times people, not just my mom, but like in high school, there was this, she was clearly a narc. Okay. She was clearly a narc. And she would follow me around and she'd be like, so, go to any cool raves? Who do you know with your hookup? And I'm like, I sit in my room and I sew my bags. Like, I don't know I don't have friends. Okay. Like art supplies. And she's like, no, you can be honest with me. I'm like, I am being honest with you. Or like the gynecologist, like, you smoke pot. It's like, no, I don't. I do not. I am like the most nerdiest nerd ever. I am watching I Love Lucy and collaging in bed. This is my life. And no one believed it.
Wow.
I dropped out of high school because anti-Semitic bullying, which is just great, everyone. That's just so fun. And my mother is bullying me at home. And I'm like, I'm gonna fucking lose it. So of course I start acting out. Of course I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill somebody. And at that time, I also got appendicitis. So I was out of school. The principal calls me up because they're like, they want to hold me back another year. The principal calls me up and he's like, so you were just like skipping school, right? Like you could tell me. I'm like, I have a fucking tube hanging out of my body. Like I can't sleep on my stomach. And that's when I dropped out. That's when I dropped out and put myself through community college because it was like, I cannot with this. Like, what is this life I am given to also have this bullshit?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Come on.
Yeah. That is insane. Like I can't even imagine. So you have life at home with mom. You have life at school with kids, which kids are bullying in general, right? So it's not to be expected, which is really sad, but it happens and it's unfortunate. And then you were the victim, but then you have the principal on top of that, like,
and the administration. The anti-Semitic bullying did not just come from the kids. The anti-Semitism came from the administration and it came from teachers as well. And it was so bad that I Okay, doctors thought I had colon cancer, uterine
Mhm.
cancer, and ovarian cancer, and stomach cancer. I
Mhm.
had 14 ulcers at one time. I had colitis,
Mhm.
and I could eat only white rice, chicken, and oatmeal for a year
Mhm.
based on the stress of being 14 to 16.
Mhm. Mm. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's go back a little bit. I just wanted to touch on PMDD
Mhm.
because you mentioned it, and I feel like it's a very important topic to really even kind of bring to light that if there are people out there who find themselves in situations where they feel like this could be something that they have as well, but just aren't sure. So I'm not very familiar with PMDD at all. Are you able to just kind of give us like your
I can give my
layman's way?
experience.
Yes, perfect.
I can give my experience because I am by no means a medical person. I can't
Right.
even listen to the commercials on the TV.
Yes.
Okay, so for me, my mood definitely changes. Now, it has gotten better. I had post-traumatic stress disorder from the age of 10 to 28.
Mm.
During that time, my period felt like I was impaled by a metal pole. It
Mm.
was unbearable, and it lasted for 2 weeks. I have what I call a pain girdle, which starts at the belly button and ends at the knees.
Mm-hmm.
Food doesn't taste the same. Smells are way more intense. Insomnia for real. Rage attacks for real.
Mm-hmm.
Everything feels like I have no skin.
Yeah.
And that's
Huh.
it. It because of quarantine, it is slowly starting to come back, and it's
Mhm.
really upsetting to me because
Right.
I've worked so hard to
Right.
be like healthier and to
Yeah.
let things go, and now it's like, God damn you, stress.
Yeah.
But it's
Oh.
different, even though it
Mhm.
feels exactly the same, which
Mhm.
is awful.
Mhm.
Which is awful. I'm very grateful for my husband who reminds me of myself because one of
Mhm.
the things about it is I lose my center.
Mhm.
It feels like a fog for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh crap, where am I going? What am I doing? Who am I? What is this? And then I lose all sense of like what happened before,
Mhm.
what's happening now, the
Yeah.
fact that this happens every month.
Uh-huh.
Like all of it is just gone.
Right. Mhm. Oh.
Yeah. Thank God for period trackers because that's
Yeah.
really helped to see the consistency of the
Uh-huh.
chaos that
Right.
is my cycle.
And so is this a curable thing? Is this a suppressible thing? Is
I
this
don't think so. I think it's untangleable for
okay.
me.
Okay.
For me,
Right.
it seems to be very entangled with stress,
Yeah.
and PTSD
Mhm.
because there was so much trauma around my period. That's what I attribute it to.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, help for me.
Mhm.
Eating cleaner has definitely made a difference. I drink 2 gallons of water a day. That
Mhm.
has made a huge difference.
Nice. Okay. That's
You
good.
would not think that it would make such a
Yeah.
difference, but it really, really does. My period is ending now, and I don't think I would be able to have this conversation cognizant and like,
Mhm.
"Ooh," if I wasn't doing those things,
Yeah. Yeah.
to make it easier.
Oh, that's good. So if
Yeah.
somebody had, if they questioned their body and themselves and the symptoms that they're feeling every month, and they're curious to learn more, what are some of the resources you would redirect them to?
Well, I don't have the best track with doctors, but talk with your doctor.
Yeah.
And if they push you aside, ask that it be documented in your chart that they
Mhm.
pushed you aside, and then
Yeah.
they'll take you a little bit more seriously.
Mhm. Mm.
The period tracker really
Yeah.
helped me
Okay.
because it showed me that I have insomnia 3 days before my period, whereas before it was like, "Ah, why?" Like, I just had no relationship for the events that happened.
Right. Yeah.
So, that's where I would start, and
Okay.
then awareness,
Yeah.
meditation, yoga, things that help you connect with you
Mhm.
because you will know your body and then you can be flexible and loving as you
Right.
figure out what works.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it sounds like it took you quite some time to learn to start just trusting people in your life and around you again. So when were you able to peel back the layers and say, all right, I'm ready to begin trusting again? At which point were you able to pivot from the trauma of your childhood and the relationships that you've had to being able to trust, like with your husband you've mentioned?
Well, I actually am still doing that. Like that's an ongoing process
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
I was
Oh.
always hopeful and determined that I was not meant to be alone.
Mhm.
And I remember being in my mother's kitchen, stamping my foot, being like, I exist as I am.
Mhm.
This is who I am. And there is
Mhm.
someone out there for me yelling at someone that they exist as they are, and there is someone for them. Like just
Yeah.
because
Knowing there's somebody there. Yeah.
because I was like, I am too loving, I am too kind, I really love life. Like despite all of the bullshit, there is this part of me that is untouchable
Mhm.
because I was gifted this life and I refuse to believe that I was gifted this life to be fucked on.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
Yeah.
And my mother tried to break that so
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
so hard. And instead, I met my husband on
Mhm.
OkCupid and
Okay.
knew his name before he told me his name.
Okay. How so?
Well, we were talking on chat. I
Mhm.
think it was like 2 in the morning, and he was in Iraq. He was stationed overseas, and I was working with a company in Moldova
Mhm.
while at my mother's house in Florida.
Mhm.
So it didn't matter about the time zones. So we're just talking and like didn't even think about, oh hey, my name is Jenny. Oh hey, my name is Jake. Nothing. There was
Mhm.
nothing. He's
Yeah.
like, I've got to go. I will talk to you tomorrow. And I go into my bedroom and I tell my cat, his name's Jacob. Isn't that lovely? Then I go to bed. And I
Huh.
wake up and there's an email from Jake.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, this is the man I'm going to marry. Very good.
Yeah. Oh,
That was it.
that
Like
was it.
that was it. We talked until he was home. He spent his entire R&R with me a month and a half later.
Mhm.
And then 9 months later, he moved in with me.
Yeah.
And it
Uh-huh.
was hard, okay? Like it was hard. But because there was that instant, like, you know who this person is,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was like, stick it out.
Yeah.
Stick. And so even now when things get hard, there's a part of me that's like, I don't fucking need this.
Uh-huh.
I don't fucking need this. And it's like, no, you love him. No, you love him. And I have
Yeah.
to work through
Mhm.
trusting the larger storyline and
Yeah.
not just the immediate danger of like,
Yeah.
I hate this feeling so much. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a lot of us go through that regardless of what type of past we had growing up as a child, whether we were loved unconditionally or not. I think all
Yeah.
of us have those moments. And so he sounds like a military man, right?
He is
You're using
he's
military
sensitive.
slang.
He is a sensitive, intelligent man
Mm-hmm.
who was in the army.
Mm-hmm.
Like the most, and that was my fantasy. I need everyone to know this. Like growing up, it was so romantic to me
Yeah.
to be with someone in the military, even though I'm like very anti-gun.
Uh-huh.
I'm not really pro-war or anything, but it was like, oh God, so romantic. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, never gonna happen. You're a creative, sensitive girl who cries over people eating meat. And
Oh.
here he is.
Yeah.
So it was very, you mean I can have my fantasy? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's so
Yeah,
cute.
total fantasy.
That's so cute. And my fantasy growing up, and I think we really kind of like pinpoint who our perfect guy is, or perfect partner is. And my thing was, tall, tanned, handsome, military. I
Really?
loved a man in uniform.
Yeah.
And it's just something about just how sharp they look and how clean they look and how put together, and it just like I loved it. So I joined the military when I was 18, army as well, and then that's where I met my husband, who's also an army soldier. And so when you're saying all these phrases like he was in Iraq, he came home for R&R, like yeah, I know all this, girl. Like
I
I know.
stole his hat and I stole his, we call it
Uh-huh.
nothing, but I was like, you don't get this and you don't get that, and
Hmm.
that's for me. But I
Hmm.
did give him my grandmother's engagement ring.
Okay.
I was like, "You give this back to me when you're ready." 'Cause
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
"This is what I want. You are who I want. The
Yeah.
end. Thank you." Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and just that was it. I mean, like, our first date was going to 7-Eleven for upset stomach medicine and to Target to pick him out underwear. I was like, "I am already married to this man at the
That is
end."
so funny. That is so
Yeah,
funny. How old were you, may I ask?
20 it was, 26.
Okay. Okay.
I had been engaged 3 times before,
Mhm.
um, but there was just and my friends at the time were like, "You have to go on other dates. You cannot just talk to this one guy in the army." And I'm like, "I hear you. I don't agree." So I would go on these dates and go to the bathroom and talk to Jake in the bathroom while I was on the
Did he
dates.
know? Did he know you were on a date?
No,
No.
absolutely
Okay.
not. No, no,
Yeah.
no. But I ended up because 'cause I'm a very clumsy person. I'm not like a cool girl at all. And I ended up blocking him like 15 times trying to read his message because you're on the phone and you're like excited. And I'm like,
Mhm.
why is he talking to me? Why isn't he messaging me for like a week? Turns out I
Yeah.
blocked him and then had to be like, hi, I'm actually a giant dork and not cool at all. So let's
Yeah.
continue talking. And it turns out he's also a giant dork. So it made everything feel so much easier.
That's so funny.
Yeah, there was no way to be cool. I was instantly forced to be myself
Uh-huh.
around this person.
Good. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
when you know. That's when you know. When you could just kind of let all your guards down and just be who you authentically are,
Yep.
whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship relationship. I think, that's really, really, really important when you're just like, oh, that was just such a great like chat that I had with this person. And I've told this person so much more than I've ever told any other person at this point in our relationship. Like we're like 1 week in or 1 month in, and here I am telling them everything I've told like my friend of 20 years just now.
Yep.
And it's just crazy how things work and how in tune you are, Jenny, with yourself and knowing, this is the man, this is the name, and just knowing,
Well, that's
disregarding what your friends are telling you.
I operate very deeply from that
Hmm.
space, and I think a lot of people don't know what to do about that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
there's the amount of times I've been called arrogant. It's like, "Excuse you."
yeah.
No. No, 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 and I just
No,
have gotten to a point where I'm like, "Okay, I hear you, I'm not
yeah,
listening. Thanks so
yeah.
much."
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. So recently I had a post on social media that says, like, what's the one phrase that makes you cringe?
Yes.
And to be very honest, like my cringe phrase was balls to the walls. Like the first time I've ever heard it was just like this girl was saying, and here we are, balls to the walls. And she's doing this whole like backhanded slapping motion. And I was like, like, I don't need the visuals on top of that. But it's just I heard somebody say it on Clubhouse and I'm just like, and she wants to be a keynote speaker, she wants to be a paid speaker, and that's what she uses as her phrase to explain how committed she is. I'm like, that is a terrible way to put that. But
Yeah.
but where I'm getting at is a lot of people came back with saying one of their phrases, the phrases that they dislike very much is like that you're too aggressive. Instead of saying that you're too aggressive, use the word you're passionate or you're other things instead of using these negative connotations to describe a person. So I hear you with that as well. And I think a lot of times, I think I called a friend the other day intense and she says, well, she was taken aback by it. She's like, what do you mean I'm intense? I'm like, no. For me, my definition of intense doesn't mean anything offensive to me.
Yep.
But she took it completely offensively. So I had to really explain what I meant by, intense, just
Yep.
to get her to understand. Okay, this is what I mean. It just means that you're a lot of there's a lot of energy coming out of you, and for some people, they can't take that very well. They're not ready for that type of energy level yet. So you're intense, but intense in
Yep.
a good kind of way because you're intensive, but motivating as well. But some people will be intense and they will withdraw from that. And that's what I was trying to explain was that they're withdrawing from you because they just can't handle your energy. So
And they are missing out. As
they
one
are.
intense person to the other,
Yeah.
they are missing out because it's
Yes.
hard. It's actually a little challenging, to be yourself. I am a very intense human being,
Hmm.
and to be okay with the fact that other people aren't okay with it. Because you
Yeah.
don't at least for me, I don't ever intend to upset anybody.
Right.
I don't ever wanna, like, jar anyone. And so you navigate being this very empathetic but very electrically charged.
Yes.
Like I am that person.
Yeah.
When I am not excited about something, I am grateful because it is so rare.
Uh-huh.
So rare where I don't care or it's like I'm
Yeah.
not excited about it. It's like, oh, yeah, it can happen. Because I just am interested in almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow. So Jenny, I snooped around on your blog a little bit, and we'll just kind of go back to the teacher thing. And in your blog, you had mentioned that of being bullied by your teachers in your blog,
yep.
and then that you also mentioned that the lesson learned was it was not on you to defend the person, but hear the accuser out. What did you mean by that? Am I saying that right?
Well, I do feel like, especially because whenever there's an abused situation or a bullying situation, you're not going to know that side of the bully.
Mm-hmm.
The bully is very careful in who they show that side to, and
Yes.
they work diligently in producing a different image to everyone else so as to isolate the victim even further.
Mm.
So I lived with a guy who we went to art school together. He
Mm-hmm.
was very talented, and I was lesser known and less talented at the time.
Okay.
So when we dated, it really felt, and even though I was older, it felt like the high school jock and
Uh-huh.
the nerdy girl. Even though
Uh-huh.
we're both nerd graphic designers, it was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
the popular boy likes me.
Uh-huh.
That's true. But he was a horrible narcissist. We
Mm.
lived together for 4 months, and I can't say he is the reason why I have PTSD, but he is the reason my foundation broke so damn hard
Mm.
that I was able to grow from underneath all of the trauma from my childhood
My
and
goodness.
forge myself
Yeah.
anew.
Yeah.
Intense,
Uh-huh.
the bad kind.
Yeah.
I chose
Wow.
to live in my car rather than live with him another day.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going with? Oh, so at that time, he called all of my friends
Mm-mm.
who he shit talked behind their back for the 4 months that we were
Mm.
together and blamed me for the breakup.
Oh, wow.
Meanwhile, he's cheating on me with a girl he works with. He's
Mm.
telling me every day, oh, I love you so much. I can't wait to see you. He comes home, he ignores me, he goes right to the computer and talks with the girl he's
Mm.
cheating on me with
Oh
while
my
telling me
goodness.
I'm crazy. How can I expect him to talk to me? Like,
Wow. Yeah.
okay.
Oh
So
my
when
goodness.
this was over the summer between semesters.
Mm-hmm.
So when everybody came back, they were like, I heard you were such a bitch to Jeff. And I'm like, no, but
Mm.
no one believed me.
Mm-hmm.
No one believed me. So I lost all of my friends
Oh.
and had to like convince them. And I
Mm-hmm.
should not have, but
Right.
that's, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was real bad.
Oh my goodness. So that's one of the characteristics of a narcissistic or a narcissist, right? Is that their intent is to push as many people in your life away from you as possible in order to kind of like claim you for themselves so that they can continue doing what they're doing with the abuse and with the right the control. Is that
Yep.
right? Like I hear like I kind of have a vague idea of what narcissist is like, but
Well, they're
that's
different. There's different shades of different, the flavors are not the
oh
same.
wow.
Donald Trump is definitely the same flavor as my mother. Tell you
Mm,
that because I'm like, you didn't grow up with a narcissistic mom, and it shows because
yeah.
nothing can be my surprise.
Mm,
I was like, I'm done being surprised by the narcissist. I'm
mhm.
good. I've
Yeah.
seen that show. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh wow.
but
Mm,
this one, God, he was so bad. Just so dark. And
mhm.
mm. But on the plus side, he the trauma there made me
Mhm.
excellent at what I did.
Mm,
The problem was that replaced every single inch of personality and sense of self that I had. So
yeah.
graphic design was all I had, and I was stellar at it, but
Uh-huh.
didn't have friends, didn't want friends,
Mm.
didn't want to be around people, just wanted to be around fonts and posters and my cats. Like, just
Mhm.
leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I was taken in by a friend who did not like me at the time,
Mhm.
but I was under so much duress that I was blacking out from stress
Mhm.
and making up stories. It's so weird. When you black out from stress, you get pieces of information and then your mind
Mhm.
is like, let's connect these in the opposite way. And so you have a real hard time piecing together reality,
Right.
but you have this very clear idea of what you think is happening.
Mhm.
And I concocted this story and broke down in front of this girl who was like, "Oh, wow, that she actually does have feelings.
Yeah.
I feel bad for her." And
Aw.
so she asked me to move in with her, and she helped me. She
Mm.
helped me beyond belief. She was very, very kind.
Mhm.
She would check in with me if I was in the shower too long. She would help me get dressed. She would like coach me into
Mhm.
having self-esteem.
Okay.
Um, Very grateful for this
Yeah.
woman in my life.
Aw.
And for years on my birthday, I would give her a gift because I didn't think that I would really be me
Mhm.
if she hadn't loved me,
Aw.
you know? So we
Yeah.
lived together until I graduated. We graduated.
Uh-huh.
Um, and we talk still. It's a real loving thing. But yeah, I'm
Aw.
much healthier, but with the help of her.
Yeah.
Definitely with the help of her.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a great segue into, who is Jenny Ambrose today? All of the shit that you went through in your younger years, in your college years, and then now having this friend that helped inspire you to be who you are. Who are you today?
I am someone who is actually relentlessly joyful.
Hmm.
And I like to say the depth of my pain is the height of my joy.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've reached the height of my joy,
Oh.
but it really does feel like I do what I love
Hmm.
day in, day out
Yeah.
for as long as I want to do it. And that's really a blessing, a super
Yes.
blessing.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
let's see, I am creative all the
Mhm.
time. I
Mhm.
am analytical. I am
Mhm.
encouraging.
Mhm.
I'm solution oriented.
Okay.
People come to me when they need things figured out and they don't even know what they need.
Yeah.
And that feels really good. And I have to thank my upbringing for that. Like there's a lot of forced resiliency there
Mhm.
that makes running a business seem effortless.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, what's going to come for me now?
Awesome. So Jenny, tell us about your business. Tell us what you're doing and how
Yes,
you're contributing back to the community with your services.
I founded Puree Fantastico,
Okay.
which is a design science and strategy company
Mm.
which blends anthropology, graphic design, emotional intelligence, and critical thinking.
Okay.
So that looks like brands, copywriting, business names, websites,
Mm.
commercials, packaging.
Okay.
But all of it is centered around what my clients want to feel with their business,
Mhm.
how they want their customers to feel through
Mhm.
their business, and
Mhm.
it becomes a way for people to
Mhm.
start believing in their own dreams and making what they want to have happen. And
Mm.
that creates a culture where people actually believe in themselves,
Mhm.
where happiness can happen
Yeah.
and understanding can
Yeah.
happen.
Okay. All right. So why do you call it a design science? What's the
So I blend anthropology and design. I also
Mhm.
non-pretentiously use the scientific method as my design process. To
Yeah.
me, they are one and the same.
Mhm.
Um, and everything I do is to breed the culture of empathy and intentionality through communication. Anybody can make something beautiful.
Mhm.
I make things that drive results, that really provide solutions and the foundation to get what you want to have happen.
Mhm.
One of my favorite projects that I worked on was for Ringling College of Art and Design. I
Okay.
worked with the admissions office. They they were happy with only 30% of the students actually attending their school that got accepted.
Mm. Mhm.
Exactly, exactly. That face was the face I made where I'm like, "You're really happy with that?" So
Mhm.
I went and did research,
Mhm.
and Other top tier art schools were getting 70, 90. They were getting higher numbers.
Yeah.
So I reported back. I did a survey with the students. I'm like, why did you choose Ringling? Any other schools? What do you like about it? And
Uh-huh.
I did a presentation.
Yeah.
Here's what you're missing. Here's what you're losing by not capitalizing on this.
Uh-huh.
And I talked them into increasing their budget from like $1,500 to $7,000, $8,000.
Okay.
And I positioned this gift, like getting accepted to Ringling is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to be around creative people and learning and all of this. And so they would get a sketchbook
Mm-hmm.
showing other students' artwork and, allowing them to make their own, a poster with the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it resulted in 77% coming.
Mm.
They do it to this day. I did that in 2006.
Wow.
The,
Congrats.
Thank you. The ability to use deeper emotional communication with design
Yeah.
will change our culture because
Mm.
you are creating something with
Yeah.
intention. And it is a missing piece in design. It's why I walked away from my corporate job after 6 months
Uh-huh.
because Tide did not need my brain
Mm-hmm.
like independent business owners with something to bring to this table need my brain and my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Puree Fantastica does.
All right. All right. So why don't you niche?
I actually feel like I do niche.
Okay.
So I was talking with my husband today at dinner, and he's telling me that they now have dog food for different dog breeds.
Uh-huh.
Dog food for Yorkies, dog food for Boston Terriers. And so we're talking about it. I'm like, they tell you to niche down.
Uh-huh.
This is clearly that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I do niche. My niche is an energy. Because
Yeah.
I've worked with, like I said, art universities. I've worked with the German government. I've worked
Uh-huh.
with thousands of wedding photographers, financial planners,
Yeah.
burlesque dancers. Does not matter.
Uh-huh.
What do you want to say? Who do you want to say it to? What does that look and feel like?
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm doing. That's
Yeah.
what I'm here to do with you. As
Yeah.
long as you are dedicated to what you want to do, you are optimistic or positive, or you're interested and curious,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do great things together. But if
Yeah.
you are, oh, I don't know how we're going to do that. Oh, I can't do
Mm-hmm.
that. We'll
Mm-hmm.
never work well together because anything I
Exactly.
suggest to you, you will not see the value and you will not understand how to use it
Yeah.
for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a personality. It's that to me is the niche.
Yeah, no, and that's irreplaceable. You can't take somebody else and put them into your shoes and say, all right, be Jenny Ambrose and her energy and her personality. It's you. It's so specific to you that it's what makes you unique, and it what differs you and differentiates you from the next person who claims to do similar things for a person's business and their branding and everything. So I,
And they can't. And that's the thing. I worked with two photographers. They were best friends.
mhm,
And my process is answer questions, send me visual inspiration.
uh-huh,
Let's talk about those things.
yeah,
They sent me, I don't know, half of the exact same photos in their photo inspiration.
uh-huh,
But what they saw in those photos, what they wanted out of those photos, how the process came about, completely different brands.
mm,
So
mhm,
even if you feel like everyone else does it or you're not unique, I swear to you, you are, because
yeah,
there is a mixture in you that nobody else has, a
yeah,
perspective in you no one else has.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's awesome. And I love that you reiterate that over and over. And here you are, you're not even speaking to anybody specifically about their branding or anything, but you're still just so pumped about it and so energetic about, like, there is something very special and very unique about you and what you provide. And in the recent days with Clubhouse being a new thing, I'm hearing a lot of, I want to start a podcast, because I find myself a lot of times on the podcast groups and whatnot, and they're just like, I want to start a podcast, but I'm not sure if what I have is good enough. And we're all kind of like, just be you, like it's you, it's your voice, it's your audio, it's whatever comes to mind for you. And if you is one person, one listener, one loyal person that subscribes to you, so be it. Just keep doing it until you find your tribe, because it's so you, and you shouldn't try to be
similar to somebody else, because if that's the case, there's 400 million or whatever podcasts out there.
Yeah.
It just, not important. It's not important for you to try and fit into what's already created. It's important for you to stand out in what you bring to the table. So,
and it is, if I may,
yes.
I have been working for the last 13 years on a research project
Okay.
that I feel
Uh-huh.
explains the way I understand design. That's
Okay.
the goal.
Uh-huh.
Because when I got a job, even when I was in art school, the way that I understood design was not the way anybody else understood it. And I got very defensive and very frustrated at 22. And at 24, I was like, fine, I'll show you guys, okay? I'll just show you. Because I am that person. If it continues to happen, pause, let me do it, let's continue. And so it's been 13 years, but it has been such a spark in me that I have maintained for that long. When people are like, that's stupid, I don't understand, I don't want to understand. It just, I'm like, I don't care. This is not, it's not for you, it's for me. For me to see, like, this is how I see it. I am trying to show you. I am doing my best to make it accessible for you. If that does not work, you can at least see that I think good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a very extensive website that allows people to explore visuals and structure in an exploratory, fun way. Because it's technically difficult. And you get a lot of books. But reading a book and dealing with a digital, it's very difficult and not efficient. And being the graphic designer that I am, I'm like, this is what graphic designers do. They take complex experiences, complex information, and they say, how can I make this easy and enjoyable? How can I engage the user and think about them and get the ultimate goal? And the ultimate goal is understanding, aka empathy, everyone.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it on the internet.
Uh-huh.
I know that because it took me 5 years to find my developer.
Yeah.
I wrote a 450,000 word database. Meanwhile, like, that's not me. Like, I'm not a data person, but that's what the project called for. That's what needed to happen.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, for 8 years, it was a solitary endeavor. The only person I had in my corner was my husband, who would be like, I love you, babe, but you sound like a crazy FBI person with the string and the collage. Like, I love you, babe. How can I support you, honey? And it took a long time because I kept failing. I could not find or develop a process that allowed me to continue the project. It took 7 times before I found something that worked.
Okay.
7 different tries of like, this, no, this, no. And now I'm at a place where I'm creative directing a team of people.
Okay.
To finish this out and get this out and launch it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Even if people don't get it, you can still get it yourself, and that alone can sustain you so that they will get it.
Nice. Very nice. So what is the ideal type of clientele? So is it somebody, do you enjoy, I guess would more so be the word, I'm sure everybody is perfect for you in a way, but do you enjoy working with like the newbie who's just like, I don't know which direction to go with this, I kind of want this vision, or do you like the people who have been in it for a while who are struggling to evolve and move forward?
I would definitely say the second category, because with the first one, it's so much more important for them to try.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know that is the opposite advice that so many people are getting, especially from themselves. The truth is, if you're just starting out, you don't know. And that's a beautiful, wonderful space, because you get to figure it out. And the only way you figure it out is by messing up.
Yeah.
You mess up and you find the boundary and you wiggle over there and you find a different boundary and you go over here. I mean, like, that's okay. That's how we learn to walk and to run and to dance.
Yeah.
So my clients right now, a business coach who is so rebellious. I love it. She has an entire surrealist, absurdist brand that like really stretched my own creative abilities where I'm like, wow, this has not happened in a while.
Yeah.
A therapist who does harm reduction therapy and focusing on addiction and people who choose to live with drugs in their life.
Mm.
A different therapist who is for the LGBTQ community, who speaks fluent Spanish, and so multicultural therapy is his thing.
Yeah.
And then a musician. I mean, so it's like they are all different
industries. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all different ages, all different demographics, and that is actually what I prefer.
Right.
I'm even doing different things for them.
Uh-huh.
I got a message. I had a client call last week from a woman in the Netherlands, and the first thing she says was, "I'm tired of playing small.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of playing small. I know what I'm here to do." And it's like if there was that sentence, because that is the call that I very much answered myself.
Yeah.
I understand that intrinsically,
Yeah.
and I understand the strange loneliness of that forest.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, what are those beacons that help you light the way, and how do you find them? That's something I definitely love helping people with.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And it feels like I feel like you know, you're waiting for somebody who have made the mistakes. And this kind of goes back to some of the things that I say a lot is sometimes people go into it, like with the podcast situation earlier, where people overthink, and they think that they need to hire a team of professionals to create their website, to edit their stuff, to, you know, to everything. You know, they feel like they need to have like a whole team and a whole army of people. And I'm just like, just get started. You know, there's a lot of free tools that you can use right now. And if your recording sounds like shit, then it just sounds like shit. But, you know, is your message authentic? Is your message truly who you are? Are you representing yourself authentically? But make those mistakes. Understand what you're doing wrong, because then you evolve and you grow from that. Because then you go back and you start critiquing your own work. And then you're like, this is where I really need to invest some assistance. And you know, sometimes it's not the website, sometimes it's not the editing, sometimes it's not the content, sometimes it's just something very specific. But you have to realize, you have to walk the walk in order to understand, okay, now I know what I need help with, or now I know where I can hand something off and pay a professional to do that. And I hear you when you say, like, you don't want somebody brand new just saying, oh, help me, I want to start, I have this idea and I want to start. But instead you want somebody who's been in the game, have some skin in the game, and understand what direction now they want to go in. And then that's when you step in, and the variety just sounds fun, because then you don't feel like you're like working with the same type of industry. Like you like ABC is all the same industry. And then you feel like, or maybe I'm
what
just
problems am I solving if I always work with, and that's for me.
Yes.
Like it becomes an ethical thing. And that may seem strange, but it's like, if I'm always working with the same type of people and the same type of industry with the same type of market, I can't.
Yeah, because you go down that rabbit hole, and you miss out on all these other opportunities and all these different types of innovative ways other industries are doing it.
Yep.
So,
and that for me is the joy. The joy is actually solving the problem.
Yeah.
I've had clients where they're like, I'll send them a font, you know, because you always send a font option, and then you play with it.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's great, done. Here's your money. And I'm like, it's just a font. It was almost like, this cannot possibly be the job. And sometimes it is. And so I actually choose. I was on a client call earlier today, and I'm like, you're wonderful to work with. I love working with you. And he's like, really? I have to tell my brain that. But it's like, it's okay to make mistakes and do my job and solve the problem. It's that's the joy. That's the joy.
Yeah.
If it's just, like, come on, give me the meat. Give me the goods.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. All right. So, Jenny, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Is there something that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you yet during this interview? Something you'd like to talk about?
I don't know. It's such a wasted opportunity, but I don't know.
Oh, it's okay. I'll go on to the next question, and if something pops up. Totally fine.
Oh, God.
That means we've covered a lot. I feel like we've covered a lot of really good stuff. So, okay. So if I give you a billboard for the world to see, what would it say?
Like what you like, be
Mhm.
okay with it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because I think it's I tell people all the time, just be authentically you, right? If it's weird, if it's quirky, if it's dorky, if it's nerdy, then just be you because that's what makes you so unique. And I love that. And so, if you like nerdy things, and be okay with that. Don't worry about what the naysayers have to say about what your interests are.
The naysayers are only naysayers because that's how they feel about themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the thing about all of us, okay? We speak from ourselves to ourselves. It's like the most weirdly narcissistic existence.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Hmm.
And so I'm sure I piss a lot of people off with my loud joy. I don't care. They're not going to stop me from being
Right.
shiny and joyful.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be like, ha ha, and be even more charming.
I love it.
That's just the flavor.
Yep, it is. It sure is. All right. Do you have any exciting things happening in the next 6 months to a year, 2 years that you foresee?
I'm working on a course. Okay, here's the thing. Everybody and their mother came out with an archetype course recently, or at least that's what it feels like looking at my Facebook feed. Um, but mine is completely different. And so even though mine's not out yet, I'm still coming out with it.
Mhm.
It's going to be super fun and have absurdist paper dolls. And then I
Okay.
know and this is the way that I understand archetypes. I guess the way that I understand everything is a very abstract,
Yeah.
fun, playful way. And
Uh-huh.
so for a course I'm making, of course it has to have make your own archetype and archetype absurdist paper dolls.
Uh-huh.
And then that extensive website should be coming out 6 months to a year.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yes,
And
it is.
it'll be linked to your current website now, or that'll
Oh
be brand
yes.
new?
Oh
Perfect.
yes. I will have it mounted to my forehead and neon letters when this thing comes out.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Awesome. All right. So any other things we should discuss?
Hmm.
Mhm.
About design, about anything.
Anything you'd like to, any last bits of Jenny Ambrose knowledge and wisdom?
I don't think so. I mean, be okay with saying no to stuff. I have a
Mm,
hard time saying no to stuff, and there
yeah.
was someone who people want to get me in their group.
Hmm.
Like I'm a very encouraging person, and I get that, and I love that. But at the same time, it's like I really need my own space. I am still that solitary kid who's like, actually, art by myself is just the greatest thing in the world. And if you are like that, or you feel like
Hmm.
maybe you aren't like that and you miss out, you don't miss out.
Yeah.
Like keeping to yourself and like nurturing your own energy is probably one of my biggest saving graces in this
Hmm.
life
Yeah.
because I'm not swayed by trends.
Yeah.
I don't try and do what everyone else does, and I see it happening, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, you're just running by my window. I'm busy. I'm working.
Yeah.
So, how do you
Yeah.
feel about that?
No, I love it. I think that's really important. That's an important message. And especially you coming from the background that you do, it's incredibly important to be very unique in what you do and what unique in what you're displaying and putting out there and what you're doing for your clients as well. And so I think it's being impressionable and having influences from what trends are happening out there. If it's already a trend and if you're just getting started, you're already behind the curve. So you always want to just be uniquely you and do something that really speaks to people, and then also making it very like unique to your clients thing, whatever their business is, whatever their personalities like. I think what you bring to the table is just being able to amplify what that individual's business is, and I think that's so incredibly cool. And your energy is like up here, and I love it, and you sound so fun to work with, and I'm just like, okay, where do I have an opportunity for Jenny? Because I'm sure eventually I'm going to come knocking on your door saying, all right, it's time to work on this branding here. So
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like at this point, I do everything from branding, business name, like the therapist I mentioned,
Mhm.
branding, business name, website, illustration, and now content
Yeah.
creation and management. Because
Wow.
like, once I know who you are and what you want to do, it's very easy for me to be like, oh, now we do this with it. Now we go over here with it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
growth has always been, oh my God, that 2006 project I was talking about, that was for my internship.
Oh, wow.
That was the first project I ever did for a client.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I am more than just a designer.
Yeah.
And even if you do like trends, just to like piggyback a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. Like you need accessories for your outfit. It's totally okay to pick and choose a little trend here or there and then be like, all right, and now I'm done. Or not. It's cool to do. And that's one of the best things about being in your 30s I could ever talk about. Is like having that feeling of like, this is what I like.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. So, Jenny, where can our guests find you? Where's the best place for them to reach out to you at?
pureefantastico.com is my website. Instagram at pureefantastico, Facebook at pureefantastico, LinkedIn at pureefantastico, and Pinterest.
All right. So Puree Fantastico, right down there below on the ticker that you can see. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for coming out today and having this chat. I feel so like refreshed talking to you. And that, like we went into this before we entered the recording and I was just like, I'm tired. It's the end of the week. And I was just exhausted. But thank you so much. It's so refreshing to have this conversation with you. And I think you bring a really unique perspective. And I can't wait to see what you do with some of the listeners with Comfort Kills who reaches out to you and all the cool things that you're going to do with their business. So thank you.
Thank you. That's incredible compliment. I really appreciate it.